Hey folks, I made a video called Atheism is Not a Cypher. And some people said they liked it and agreed with me. Others said they didn't get it. And so I wanted to talk a little bit more about that. So let's bring along a leprechaun, hey there, just like this. Now it's true that most people, very many people, do not believe in leprechauns. They are not leprechaunistes. Therefore, the picture of an a-leprechaunist would look like this. This is the folks that do not believe in leprechauns. This is the a-leprechaunist movement, right here. On the other hand, if you look at folks that believe in this guy, a supreme being, there are many. Therefore, atheism does not look like this, even though atheism is the absence of a belief in God. Atheism looks like this. Yes, the part in the middle here. It is the space between the forms. The forms represent theism. Atheism is not a cipher. And responses to theism reflect this, so that atheists respond to theists because of this form-figure illusion that we see here. Now, one way is to say, well, religion is very irrational. It doesn't make sense. There are beliefs that are not backed up. And so we'll be very rational. That's the rational response. And that is certainly a rational response. There are other types of responses. Folks can act in very interesting ways to get a lot of attention, to mock religion. Personally, I prefer to stop short of dog shit on the Bible. And just to be clear, I stop short of any type of shit. So it's not the dog part that's the problem. However, I do agree with a lot of the rational response movement, and of course if it goes too far then I've got a problem. That's where I draw the line. But what I would like to do is to talk about some work by a few atheists and what that work entails. One of these fellows, unfortunately, is dead, Douglas Adams, who created the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and the Restaurant at the End of the Universe books, and a whole lot more. These books are funny, but there's a lot more to it than just that. These books question the answers that religion puts forth, but not only questions the answers, and question is way too weak a word, but it also questions the questions. These books, and many people don't pick up on this, these books are all about existentialism. And existentialism is, in a sense, a response to theism. Douglas Adams' response. And what Douglas Adams is talking about in these books has a lot to do with the nature of life itself and how we look at it. In these books, although life seems to be all funny on the surface, just beneath the surface, just a millimeter beneath the surface, it is capricious, dangerous, and quite a nasty place to be. In these books, there's also a little reference to David Hume and the notion of epistemology and the nature of scientific method. But essentially, they are a caustic response to theism, and I strongly recommend reading them. Now, a less caustic response is going to be this one right over here, which I just turned the Enterprise over the wrong way. Let's see if I can get it back. Thank God. Inertial stabilization is back. Now, as far as Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek, the original series, this is a Western, a morality play based in outer space. Gene Roddenberry, an atheist and also a secular humanist, essentially created a story with no shades of gray. There are good guys, like in Westerns, bad guys, and at the end of the story, the good guy always wins, at least in the initial series. Religion has evaporated. All the warp-capable, All the warp-capable civilizations are not religious, as far as we know, in the original series. So in essence, what's happened is you have a lot of this, and you get a look at the world from this perspective. The only time you start to see any of this right over here is when you look at primitive cultures. And when you look at primitive cultures, you quickly get the point of the story that these are not that great and they will outgrow them. Now please understand, I'm not talking about any of the Star Trek series or movies after the original. There was a lot of new stuff that came along, just the original. Now, Star Trek was not realistic, but it did have something interesting in it. It had that morality. Now, Douglas Adams' books don't have that morality. In fact, one of the interesting things about the book is the lack of morality there. However, in the Next Generation, forget that, as far as the original series goes, but also for the Next Generation, is why I kind of misspoke, is there's a strong sense of morality, a strong sense of human beings have this natural instinct to defeat discrimination. By the way, Nick Gisburn's video on homosexuality is terrific, the recent one. Take a look at it. And Star Trek looks at a civilization where the reasons for being moral are no longer based on a supreme being, but on other reasons. It looks at what human beings should do, how they should go forward, how they should explore, how they should grow. But I won't belabor these points. My big point is that atheism is the space between the forms, and it will remain that way for quite some time, well, maybe forever. But it does have a form, because it is defined by theism, at least for now. Anyway, thank you for listening to my ramblings. The Atheist Ad Contest video has been placed up on the Gisburn website, and I greatly appreciate that. Hope to see some more entries. Thanks, folks. Just a few brief corrections. I mentioned that Douglas Adams had died, and I said it was unfortunate. I didn't mean to imply that Gene Roddenberry's death was fortunate. I just didn't speak right. The other thing is, I said that David Hume is mentioned in Douglas Adams' books. He isn't mentioned directly, but if you go to the part about the man who controls the universe and looks at his cat and doesn't see a cat but a bunch of sense impressions and cannot conclude that there is a cat, that's Hume.